Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to the Pursuits of Productivity podcast. As you can tell, we have new space around here. Thank you, the creative space.
The idea space.
The idea space, part of the Fredericksburg Public Library. Thank you very much. Joining us today is my co-host today, Balin.gailbraith.
Balin.gailbraith, guys. What's up here? Long time no see. Glad to be back on the podcast.
And special guest star, local entrepreneur and business owner, aarongowaty. Would you like to introduce yourself? Tell yourself
Yes.
to the audience.
My name is Aaron I am the owner of New World Manufacturing. We do... Man, I feel like I should restart now. I can't do edits like I can before, can you?
No.
You can't do edits? Oh.
It's just conversation.
New World Manufacturing. We manufacture clothing. We work with a lot of clothing brands, and we do a lot of merchandise for companies. I'm also the owner of Impossible Brands. We make your branding how your client will best respond to it to achieve your best results.
That was really good.
That was good.
That was really good. Yeah.
We
editing either. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're
It's to be hot for like 3 hours, whatever. Shout out Yeti.
Shout out Yeti, making good product. But so remember we've discussed about your history before and how you got into entrepreneurship. But uninitiated, when did you start? When did you realize entrepreneurship was for you, and what was your first vehicle?
So I started my first business. It was a clothing line when I was 16 years old in 2016. I was in 10th grade of high school at the time. I got my grandmother's sewing machine. I was just sewing clothing. The idea of making free clothing was really appealing. I didn't consider the fact that I would have to purchase fabric and stuff like that, but I was like, free clothing. And I taught myself how to sew using YouTube. And like 3 months after or 6 months after I was sewing, I was like, I want to release a clothing brand. And I put together my first collection, went to Instagram, started taking photos using my iPhone 4 or whatever I had at the time. And just started posting to Instagram. And people liked it. People were catching on. There was a lot of Insta brands at the time. So I was like catching a perfect wave of this whole movement of Insta brands.
Right.
And I just kind of caught onto the wave, continued sewing, got a whole bunch of design experience. And that was my first business I started. I was 16 years old.
Pretty incredible, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know why we're sitting in this room with Aaron, me and Killian have recently, since we've last seen all your beautiful faces behind that camera screen right now, we've started our own digital marketing agency called Magnet Media. Shout out Magnet Media. And Aaron here is one of our first clients. So we're absolutely pumped to be in business with him. I just wanted to pre-reference for that for everybody. Yeah.
So, what YouTube creators were like really inspiring to you? Not only in sewing, but also business entrepreneurship. Because I also learned a lot of the stuff that I know now about marketing, digital marketing, content marketing, etc., through YouTube. So, what would that have been for you?
The person who really taught me how to sew was Ken Andrew Daly. He had the most appealing tutorials. So he was showing people how to make bomber jackets. He was showing people how to make bucket hats. And like bomber jackets were peak season. That's like
I remember those were huge.
Yeah,
2016 through like 2019.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. So he had the stuff that I wanted to make. So I was just like watching his videos. He taught me how to do a lot of stuff.
And those were YouTube. That was YouTube, correct?
Yeah, that was YouTube.
Well, what about the formatting made his videos kind of stand out to you, or was it just specifically the clothes he was making?
It was really just specifically the clothes he was making.
Cool.
Because everyone else was like how to make dresses, how to taper in suits, all these other things that weren't really applying to what I wanted, which at the time I was interested in streetwear. I was interested in menswear, stuff that was like fit that niche kind of.
Right. Cool. Instead of like tailoring like suits and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Would you ever consider doing like tailoring and suits?
Yeah, there's a lot of money in it. That and the wedding business are two things where I was like, I could get into this and there'd be money.
Right.
But they're just like, not
That's not your goals.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of interesting content marketers for tailors. Like, have you seen the one where it's like Chinese boy?
Yeah.
Those 2 planets. How old are you? 18?
Yeah. That like skinny Indian guy. That he makes some nice suits.
He does make nice suits.
Yeah, really beautiful.
Highlights the planets.
Exactly.
What's it called? 3D. See?
Yeah.
Those are hilarious. But so what's your why? I remember you'd mentioned you expressed a lot of interest in just building the actual clothes yourself.
Yeah.
And being able to, like you said, free clothes, building what you want to build, what you want out there. But save for that and your intrinsic motivation, what extrinsic or intrinsic motivations is also motivating your entrepreneurial ventures?
Yeah. So there was a big switch between really being an artist and being the artist of half of my clothing brand that I started back when I was 16. And like that was pretty much my main gig that I was doing for the most part up until like 2022 when I started New World. So New World is my clothing manufacturing company, and there was actually a pretty big switch, being that like I got married early 2022, or it might have been 2021, something like that, for whatever year it was. But got married. My wife and I ended up having a baby very early after we got married. Happy little surprise there. But I was like, I need to do something that actually makes more money, is able to kind of support these things.
Right.
And a lot of my motivation to actually take things more seriously, or kind of try and build something, came from the want to actually like have a reason to build something, sort of, or like I need to be able to have enough money to survive.
Be a provider.
Yeah,
For
be a
family.
provider. Yeah. And that need was kind of the perfect motivation that I needed in order to start doing these other things. Because I had this experience as an artist in high school. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it was that?
Like for funsies.
Yeah, it kind of, there was that part of it. And the feedback that I was getting from my peers was like what really continued it.
Right.
Oh, well.
They're like,
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was this crazy drop off after graduating high school in 2018 where I didn't have that anymore. So I was creating in this void where I had like no response.
Right. No feedback.
No positive, no negative, no nothing. So I was just kind of making this clothing, which really led to a lot of lack of direction. Yeah. And I was just kind of still had this skill, still had this passion, but I felt like I wasn't really doing anything, which led to, lazily taking gap year or gap semesters, trying semesters in college, working at Royal Farms, all these different things that were kind of like trying to reboost my motivation. Which ultimately, like, the best thing for that was getting married and having a kid.
Right.
So if you want to start a successful business, you need to have a child. No.
Become a provider. Oh,
Yeah.
Lord. Would you say that, like, because I feel like a lot of people that get into their entrepreneurship kind of experience have, like, a lot of negative reviews from their peers and their parents, especially when it's not working out.
Yeah.
So would you say that gap after high school of not having any noise was like a beneficial thing for you, or do you think it screwed you all over?
Yeah, it screwed me all over. My personality is like, even if someone has something negative to say, that actually might be more of a motivator than if someone, I know that it actually is more of a motivator than someone who has something positive to say.
Yeah.
Because with the negative, I can prove them wrong, I guess.
Yeah.
Or there's something in me that responds to that more.
I think that's a trend with successful business owners. Is
Yeah.
that they feed off of the negativity of the people surrounding them because they just, crush them. Yeah.
I'm awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool though. So you started New World when?
Around 2022, January, I guess. Let's see, we're heading into 2024. It was 2023 when I moved into a warehouse. So I started it in 2022. My wife and I did get married in 2022, I believe. I know the date. It was April 3rd, but I just always forget the year. So, but 2022 is when I kind of started it. We were operating out of one of the bedrooms in our apartment. We had like employees coming into the bedroom and stuff like that. It was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah. It overtook our whole apartment before we knew it. But then warehoused in January, and that was like a whole new chapter of New World because now I have this lease to pay.
Right.
So
The playground to explore.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot more space.
It's awesome. His studio is amazing.
Yeah.
It has a lot of creative zeitgeist. You can feel it. The good vibes.
Big plushie Pokemon is awesome.
Yeah.
Custom clothes.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want custom clothes, go to newworldmanufacturing.com and send it in.
Yeah.
Or DM us on the Instagram.
Or DM us on Instagram.
Yeah.
But so what was so far been the highlight for your entrepreneurial journey? And what is a big goal of yours?
A big goal that I have is to really be able to understand and be able to like build successful large businesses.
Right.
And that's going to come with a lot of knowledge, a lot of failure. And I mean, just being 23, I definitely have myself at a good spot, like with experience of owning multiple businesses, starting a couple,
Definitely.
and having businesses already that I know are going to be there for the long haul.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, I'm at this point of like a crossroad of like being where I want to be versus being on the right track, and then being on the right track for getting the knowledge but not having all of it yet.
Right.
So like I really want to learn. I want to be able to structure these businesses, know what works, know what operates well, and I'm learning that.
Trial and error.
Yeah, trial and error. Yeah.
So
And YouTube.
and YouTube.
Yeah.
So for your almost a decade of entrepreneurial experience, what has been the largest key takeaways for any aspiring entrepreneur/entrepreneur?
Yeah. The best takeaways that have helped me that I would recommend to someone wanting to start up is sit and think through your idea. Really flesh it out, figure out what you're going to be selling, how you're going to be selling it, how much money you're going to make on the product. So have your time of sitting and thinking, really process that. And then after you're done with your processing, go do. And then
Right.
that's the hard part where you have to
Execution.
where you have to like work multiple days, either after your shift or whatever it is, of like getting this thing started then. And that's really like the monotonous, repetitive thing where you have more of the problem solving and more of the issues come up that you need.
Right.
Or that you run into.
Did the camera just show up?
Yeah, it made it click.
It did. Okay, while we'll deal with that, we'll go to this camera.
Yeah.
Camera number 1. Hi. So Aaron, outside of like running your businesses, what are the things you enjoy to do in your free time besides, spending quality time with your wife and your kid, obviously?
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy operating and kind of growing and just doing business stuff.
Mhm.
I'm really convenient that that's kind of like a huge passion of mine already. And like I love hosting, I love spending time with friends. A lot of this that has just kind of been not happening often in this season where I've been at.
Yeah.
So there's definitely sacrifices that like to start this business that I know can work. So sacrifices like not getting to host or spend as much time with friends
Absolutely.
as I previously would have.
Mhm.
But I really love that. Nothing better than having dinner with like some people and then like playing a game afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I call it giving up the hangouts. Like when you're like, oh man, all my boys are hanging out right now, but I'm trying to start a business. Like it's giving up the hangouts. And I think that's like what a lot of young entrepreneurs like don't realize is that like when you really want to start a business, there's no time for a break or a reward maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, little tidbits in there, but what you're doing throughout your day should put a smile on your face or you're doing the wrong thing. At least my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely like that trade-off, but I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
It's also the people you surround yourself with. Because I know in my own anecdotal experience, being surrounded by people who don't necessarily have the same goals or are possibly more hedonistic, don't really get what you're trying to do. And they don't understand why you're saying no to doing certain things. So surrounding yourself with like-minded people, people who want to accomplish the same things has been very helpful for my own entrepreneurial pursuits.
Yeah.
So I'm sure in your case as well.
Yeah. And I do enjoy that a lot. I didn't have that for the longest time, and I just kind of got used to like just operating solo. But like got into a business mastermind with some other people I know actually, and I was like, oh, I love this.
Right.
Yeah,
Because they're all on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 50 guys tell me, it's a waste of time. Oh, you don't need to be doing that. Come hang out.
Well, raw.
Yeah.
Drink beer.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But I still love them to death. How did you, when you were deciding like who you would get into businesses partners with, because I know you have partners in a few of your businesses, how did you kind of, questionnaire or decide that you wanted to go into business with these specific individuals?
A lot of it was what I needed at the time. So, for example, if someone has a good idea for a business, say they spent the time just sitting and thinking, and say they don't have a ton of money or they want to quit their job so they can invest time into that. So let's say that they need an investor or someone, a partner who has money. So really thinking about what you need is going to be the biggest thing. Something that I had to do a lot for it to make the most sense, at least. So like most of the time people are going to need someone who has money unless you have the money and you don't have the time.
Yeah.
So you'll either need someone who has money, someone who has time, and then ideally someone who has experience. A lot of what I was looking for in my partners was someone older than me by like 10 years who already has business ownership experience. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anyone like that, so I just kind of...
A hard one to find.
Yeah. Yeah. But you kind of think about what you need. It kind of goes back to that sitting and thinking step, but figuring out really what you need, who can really help meet that, and then getting the closest to that you can.
That's awesome. Nice.
That
Yeah,
reminds me
it's
of
like, yeah, me and Killian. I needed a video editor, so call Killian. Killian needed somebody with a few clients. Call Balin,
Yeah.
and that's been awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a question, or more so a statement. I remember my other friend Jack, a mutual of ours, who's a fellow entrepreneur. Check out Hermitage, his brand. It's very cool stuff.
Yeah.
Love the Don Quixote shorts. But he referred me to this one website called Score.com, where you can get in contact with people who are experienced business people / entrepreneurs for free. And you can just like schedule a Zoom meeting with them, and then like if you like each other, you can just start having regular Zoom calls all for free.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like free consulting.
Yeah. That is cool. That's very cool.
Perhaps that could be something that could be beneficial to your current entrepreneur pursuits.
Yeah. That's cool. Score.com.
Score.com.
Look at that.
Score.com.
Yeah.
Score.com. Yeah, it's low battery though.
I got another battery.
We can switch it up if we need.
Yeah.
If need be.
Yeah.
We'll wait until we get the clicking sound again.
Yeah.
So,
Pursuit of productivity.
yeah, this is the Pursuits of Productivity podcast. That's the title. Pop for sure.
Yeah.
So, and what did your day used to look like when you first started trying to pursue entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
And what does it look like now?
How far back should we go? They're starting.
I guess 16.
16. Yeah. I was in high school at the time, so I had my classes. Throughout the day, I would just randomly have ideas. Usually I would kind of like sketch them on the side of paper or just kind of write them down on my phone, something like that probably. I remember having a ton of ideas, more ideas than I could ever make. I have like journals and journals were full of them.
And they were all clothing articles, correct?
Yeah,
Awesome.
they were all clothing designs. And so I just had ideas throughout the school day. It's really easy to actually get ideas for something when you're in a situation where you're not able to work on it, or you're in a situation that you don't really care for.
Like when you're staring at the wall at school.
Or listening to like a teacher speak or something like that. Yeah, exactly. That's when I get the most inspired.
Public school sucks.
Yeah.
I hated public school. I don't know.
Yeah,
Did you like public
I
school?
was public schooled, but I wasn't the biggest fan. Yeah.
Nor was I. I just remember thinking like, when am I going to use any of this? And very rarely do I actually use something I learned in public school.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that stuck with me has been empirical. So, did you enjoy public school at all, despite feeling that it may have been a waste of your time?
Not the educational side of it. Since like public school was great for owning a clothing brand because I have this audience now that like was spreading the brand name without me needing to do anything.
Right.
I was making stickers too. With like, I was printing it onto the laminated sheets actually, and then spray painting with clear coat and then cutting it out with scissors.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And I would just give those out to people for free.
Right.
And people were putting them all over the school actually, like on the signs, on the walls, on the back of teachers. Like, it was crazy. So it was, high school was good for that. Like that was a lot of fun. That's an experience that I'll probably never get again because it's in this like confined area too.
Right.
So that was cool.
So, and that clothing brand was Haffle, correct?
Haffle.
So, what's Haffle doing today?
Haffle is a sacrifice that I made to start New World manufacturing. But it is something I feel like will come back up again soon.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what would you say are your current goals? Like, what is your greatest goal right now? I think I know, but I'd like to hear you.
Yeah. Greatest goal. I don't know. I guess I would say my greatest goal is the experience that I've learned from things not working at New World. That's actually pretty good. New World manufacturing, we did. It was like our first brick and mortar. First time having employees.
How many employees did you guys have?
At our peak, we had like 14.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is a high number. Definitely seems impressive, but time showed me that wasn't necessary.
Right.
But you always have that balance between the impressive versus what's needed.
Right.
And oftentimes that's unimpressive.
Right.
Because we only needed 3 employees. So yeah.
Find out.
Yeah. So I would say that I am very thankful for my experience that I learned operating New World this first year, or the first year with the warehouse at least. And I mean, that's pretty huge. That is pretty big for me.
Yeah. And you've started 2 other clothing brands as well that are through Etsy, I believe, right?
Yes. So I do have a couple Etsy shops, a couple e-commerce shops that the goal is to expand them past Etsy. A couple more than 2, but those are something that I'm kind of working on, just like as a money generator. And it makes sense also because I have a clothing manufacturing company. What does clothing manufacturing do? Makes products for retail lines.
Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of made sense for me to start these retail lines. And then other than New World and these retail lines, I have Impossible Brands, which is, I kind of talked about that earlier, but the branding.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
So would you say you've developed a fine understanding, like a good understanding of branding, by just empirically learning it over time, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, or more so what you've learned by reading or research?
I am fortunate to have a lot of experience with design and people reacting to design throughout having Halfle for 8 years now. And that really gave me the platform that I needed to understand branding for what it really is, or at a higher level. And Marty Newmeyer is someone who has been a helpful teacher to mine through YouTube, actually. And he's actually helped me with a lot of the knowledge of what branding is. That's kind of where I got the idea that branding is actually just what your client has in their mind when they see the stuff related to your business. So like branding for American Eagle for your shirt right there is what I'm going to imagine in my mind after seeing that.
Yeah.
Like that's what the branding for American Eagle is. And all the photos, all the store design that they put into that, that's not inherently branding, but my reaction to it is.
Yeah.
So that paradigm shift for me really kind of created this new way of creating branding. Because I feel like a lot of the times when people get logos made or brand names or brand colorways or website design, social media design, all these things people can have an idea that they relate to for it. But the difference of starting with finding your target audience, but then exploring the target audience's minds and being like, how does the majority of this target audience respond to this color or this image or this tone?
Right.
And that's where like the branding that I'm interested in happens. So you really start with finding target audience, getting data on the target audience, and then building the brand from that. So like you're marketing, you're building a brand that is 40-year-old women who crochet. That's your audience. Then you want to be like, okay, these 40-year-old women, what are their reactions to this thing? How is their mind going to be different from mine? And you really want to get this, like these pain points, the positive points, all these things that collect how they feel about it, and then forming the branding based off that. I feel like that's really a game changer compared to how most people do it, which is related to how their mind reacts to it or all this other stuff or what they're trying to portray. So
awesome.
Removing yourself and then unbiasedly, based off your research, developing material that you think would perform in that target audience.
yeah.
With your company, Impossible Brands, how would you say that you guys are doing the correct research into these target audiences to make sure that the logo comes out, correctly and exactly how the customer might view a certain company?
Yeah. A lot of that starts off with the database that we already have. General statistics, different online databases that already exist. A lot of that is really helpful because you can easily find it. You can kind of easily see responses, and it's easier to understand. There's some data that's harder to understand, and that kind of requires a lot of hypothesizing as to why it happens.
Yeah.
But starting off with the obvious data, the one that's like other people have already collected, that's kind of easier to find, building it from there. And then actually after you have the initial test, you have a couple of different options, and then you actually do more in-depth testing with those options. And then you kind of just build from there.
Gotcha. So like testing stereotypes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to replace the battery in this camera.
Nice.
Wow.
Wow, to the camera or?
No, just everything. I just love the space.
It is cool.
Talking to you is cool.
Yeah. Talking to you is cool. Talking to you is cool.
I think I might have to take it off the stick.
You could take it off.
Pull this off.
And then you'll just have to rotate it.
So.
Yeah. Remove it at the back.
Hold on. There's a little clip. Yeah.
And there.
Oh. Rip this on. Oh, wait, no, just turn it to the side.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, money. All right.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen. You got nails.
I do got nails done today. It's done for.
Thank you. I'm going to grab that battery. Sorry, man. That's just a little.
No, you're good.
It's good. I wanted to ask you, about your management and how you've learned about management empirically and how tedious and much of a headache that must have been.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait for that until we have everyone see.
We'll ask the question again.
That's true.
This will be edited out, by the way.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Is this like you start rolling and then it just stays till the end? So it's a podcast.
It's pretty candid.
Yeah. Well, I'm cool with that.
Keep that.
That's so funny. We'll weed out a lot of people with the intro because I'm like, wait, I can't restart. That'll be good though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It builds, familiarity. Exactly. It builds rapport. You're being genuine. You're being honest. Like a lot of the research I've been doing for content marketing lately has all been about video podcasts. It lets people know who you are.
Yeah.
When they're dealing with you. It's like the top of your it's more like the middle of your funnel.
Yeah.
At least the first layer of it anyway.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about funnel creation a lot lately.
Yeah.
How we can use that for you.
Sure.
As well as just in general.
Yeah.
Going forward. So I'm thinking video podcasts build that great rapport. And then plus you can make shorts out of them very easy.
Exactly.
Like this right here. This might be turned into a short.
Yeah.
Fire.
Fire.
All right, boys. We're back in action. But not.
Full bat. Very nice. You rolling?
Yeah.
All right. So should we acknowledge this?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we probably should.
We had some technical difficulties, but now we're back, Jack.
Yeah.
We're back. All right, so back to business.
Yeah.
You had a question, Balin? For Aaron?
Someone asked the question during the.
Yeah, so I asked a question, Mike, but it was just about stereotypes. I believe you already answered it. So you use stereotypes to incorporate or test stereotypes to incorporate how a target audience might feel about a certain logo or color scheme, something like that. Maybe like boys like blue with darker colors, girls like pink, lighter colors, stuff like that. Just as an example for a stereotype.
Like archetypes?
If that was based off, it's more so based off data actually than stereotypes. Because the stereotype, you run into the issue of what do I expect or how do I respond to this?
Yeah.
And the data is actually what does everyone's unwatched preference say about this?
Oh, very cool.
So
what tools do you use to collect that type of data or view that type of data?
there's a wide variety of different tools. When it comes to my data, it's interesting. It's a couple of different places. I don't think that there's any handful of sources that I could be like, this is definitely what we're going to use.
Sure.
Gallup is a great data collection
I've heard of
company.
Gallup. Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, they're huge. They are big. And they actually get some pretty niched down like data, which is helpful. Yeah. So Gallup, ChatGPT actually has some decent data built up.
Yeah.
A lot of other AIs do have data built up.
Bing Chat. You can scour the whole internet. Tell you.
Yeah. Google actually has a lot of data too. Some things more so when it comes to searches.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about starting a business going based off the Google searches, actually, you can kind of see trends in searches. That's something that can be really helpful for finding a need that people have.
Perfect.
So there's a couple of different things. Those are probably the top three, like Google searches, Gallup, and different AIs I would recommend.
I know Etsy as well also has like an export CSV feature.
Yeah.
Do you use that at all to like sort of split test, see what's working, see what's not, and then move forward with one line or another?
It's not something that I've done only because when I had my Etsy shops in the past and when I was really using them, I wasn't into the data as much as I am now. So for the e-commerce shops that I have, that's going to be a big part of it. But we're not really at the point where we have enough data collected because we're only like 3 weeks out into the shop being started for some of them. For the ones that Etsy lets me start.
Right.
When they don't suspend it.
Damn bureaucrats.
Yeah.
Gosh. The nerve, man. But remember you had mentioned you at one point had 14 employees.
Yes.
So what did that teach you about management? And
Man.
if you could go back and stop yourself from doing that, would you? Or are you grateful for the experience?
That's a good question. I don't know if I would stop myself. It's definitely built up some responses where I'm like almost triggered in moments. Being like I'm having emotional responses from a past time with employees. So like because of the experience I had with my 14 employees when I was distracted and not able to manage their quality and really teach well, a lot of bad experiences happened.
Like ruined product.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So much money worth of product at the time. In a case. And there's been times where that has kind of influenced me to like, as soon as I see someone doing something now, whether it's someone who's hired virtually or someone in person, I can really start to really get in my head and be like, this person is doing like this thing, and start to get this like emotional response based off like previous things. And I mean, it's not a good thing, but it's something that I can learn from.
It triggers your managerial PTSD.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
You just watch some guy sew, like standing over his shoulder, like hard drops, like yeah.
Oh, that must be. I can't imagine. Like, was that for client work or is this for Halfle? Their manufacturing.
For client
the mess up
for client work. A lot of Halfle did really get used as like just kind of thrown around, metaphorically speaking, because I would use Halfle to create these training processes for my employees. Because I was like, okay, it's Halfle. I mean, I'm probably not going to release this or whatever. It can be just a test, something like that. And quality wouldn't be A1. Those pieces would never be released. And it was just like, it was helpful for getting people to where I wished that they would be in some cases. But my managing really has been learning through a lot of trial and error. That was probably, that's the thing that I was the worst researched in. And I was just kind of handling on a day-to-day.
Right.
And a big factor that kind of went into that also is communication. Like, are you able to know what you want someone to do, communicate it, in a way where they're going to understand it, but then also be able to follow up and all these other things that honestly I could probably use some more research on.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I've had my team of people who do good. We did it down to a small amount to the point where managing people isn't my highest priority or highest need right now. Right. It's definitely something that would be good and necessary as we grow. But right now I have my mind in my hands in a lot of other things.
Right.
And I hope managing is something that I kind of procrastinating and I need to come back to. But there was a ton of trial through error. That's like how I got most of my knowledge about managing.
Just figuring it out.
Yeah.
That's important for us right now because we're pretty soon going to be in a position where we need like contractors and help with service delivery and all that.
Yeah.
So for someone in our shoes, someone who runs a service business or needs employees or contractors, what are some tidbits that you could provide for managing people as well as just ensuring that the desired outcome is accomplished?
Yeah. Systems of operation is huge. So having one set way of doing something that has a readable way of learning it, a visual way of watching it, and I mean, those are probably the biggest two.
Material?
Yeah.
Preparing material.
Preparing material for training for exactly how you want to do it that has very specific, that's very specific. So basically leaving no room for potential error. Because if people have a spot where they don't know what to do, either they're going to have to stop what they're doing, stop their productivity, come to you guys, ask you guys, wait for your response, then start again, and their whole flow is messed up, or they're going to continue and just do what they think is right.
SOP. Standard operating procedure.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why I said an abbreviation or acronym.
Yeah, I know. But being self-taught, a lot of acronyms, I don't know. So it's like the trade-off of being self-taught.
We'll be in like interviews with potential clients, and they'll like throw out an acronym, and me and Kayla would just look at each other and Google it real quick.
Just happen to have our laptop open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
I know what that is. LTV? Yeah.
Load of value.
Nah.
Yeah, so it's all new experience. It's sensitive.
Yeah.
So you said that like finding out businesses' needs is an extremely important. Starting your own businesses. What would you say like for? I would like an answer for each. I'd like an answer for Impossible Brands and New World Clothing Manufacturer. What are your two biggest needs for those companies?
Yeah. What needs are we fulfilling?
What needs do you like? What are your current needs right now?
Oh, that someone else with a business could meet?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's a good question.
And if the answer is clients, like at the end of the day, it's clients.
Yeah. So for New World, a lot of the problems that kind of came up with that were just issues that came up from someone operating a business for the first time. Or the New World was my most entrepreneurial journey at the time, or my biggest entrepreneurial journey. And there was a lot that I learned because my 6 years of Halfle before I started that, were all really artist work.
Yeah.
Like I would really definitely say I was an artist who knew how to design websites, who knew how to work at social media, I was like a solopreneur, but more so an artist over everything. So then when I started New World, that was really like me learning how to have employees, how to have the proper document set up, how to do direct deposits, all these different things, how to organize a business, how to handle a million things at once, how to set training expectations, how to lead a team, how to balance a whole bunch of bills.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there were all these different things getting thrown at me that I just kind of had to figure out and manage. And that's why like trial and error was a huge part of how I learned a lot of my stuff. I forget the question, but
Needs for your current business.
that's right.
That you cannot fulfill yourself.
That's right. That's where I was going. And a lot of that potentially could have been met with, or that a lot of that was a need. Like I had a lot of inexperience, but a lot of interest in doing something. Who knows if I would have taken a course or a class, or if I would have hired someone to manage those things. I definitely didn't know anyone or know any resources that could have made any of that easier for me.
Yeah.
But that was a huge pain point, learning all these things at the same time, and where like 60% of them were going wrong.
Yeah.
Like that's something where if someone wanted to create a structure or a business that made that easier for people, that would be huge. And yeah, that kind of does also tie into a lot of why I started Impossible Brands as well. So as you can see, like I have Impossible Brands, I have Half Full Clothing. Those are like my main two service-based businesses. Those are both kind of related. People who have businesses and people who have clothing lines kind of follow along those lines. So that's kind of what I'm actually starting to do, is take away the hard steps of starting a business for people and create companies that helps people with that.
Incredible.
So that's kind of the strategy of also starting a branding company after manufacturing. Impossible, yeah.
That's a very ethically sound business model,
Yeah,
which we love to see.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of my pain point for Impossible Brands. Let's see, pain points there. I mean, there's actually not a lot. Impossible Brands is fairly automated.
What would you say your 3 biggest tools that have helped you automate that business are?
Yeah.
So automation's big right now, especially all these new AI softwares coming out.
Yeah.
What could people use?
And
Yeah.
if you don't want to give us your secret sauce, you don't have to.
Yeah.
The data collection companies that I mentioned, those are actually huge for Impossible Brands, because we don't have to go out to the mall or downtown to ask people to take polls and all these things and ask them what their opinion is. We already have a lot of data collection there, because data collection is huge for Impossible Brands. It's like the main thing that sets us apart,
Yeah.
or one of the main things.
Really? So for Impossible Brands, the amount of data y'all survey to ensure that your customer base gets the correct model that would highlight their customer bases is extremely important, and that's what sets you guys apart.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's like one half of the coin of what we are.
Yeah.
And so like that's a huge thing, because we want to create something that's like the best based off what they're wanting. So you got to figure out your target audience, and then how does your target audience respond to X thing? How can we create a logo that plays off that?
Excuse me. I was about to sneeze.
Oh, you're good.
It went away
Bless
as
you.
soon as I said
Bless
excuse
you.
me. Thank you. That's so kind. I can't believe it just went away as soon as I made a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
I know. Oh.
That should be a shame. I actually broke Aaron's tripod finagler jaunt. That's a proper term.
Yep.
Finagler jaunt.
Us too.
You could touch on Excel spreadsheets and how important they are and how you should learn them. Because me and Balin are coming to the problem ourselves where we're like,
True.
Excel is important.
Yeah. That actually also goes into the question that Balin asked, like resources that we use for Impossible Brands. Spreadsheets is a really great free, or Google Sheets, and then even Google Docs, honestly.
I like Google Docs.
Yeah. Those are really good free resources that I love a lot. I love creating complex systems and sheets. It's just so much fun. But I've also really used that for finding my price, collecting up all the expenses that go into creating my service or my product, multiplying that times percentages. So say that I want to make 30% percentage, I can just take sum of total expenses, multiply it times this cell over here that says 30%. Boom, it shows me exactly what my profit is. Say I want to play with that, I can really change that in the future. I know exactly how much profit we're going to make based off how much it costs. Then I know exactly what to charge the client. For manufacturing, the way we were doing it, I would it was not beneficial. So if anyone starts a manufacturing company, you'll I guess you can learn from my experience here. We offered anything that the client wanted, like screen printing anywhere, embroidery anywhere, sewing anywhere in any which way, which sounds great because the client has all this creative freedom. But it for us was creating all this trial and error and learning because people were asking all these different things at the same time, which then created damaged product, which then took money out of the account, which then, since we were doing it in like 3 different areas, created such a loss.
Right.
So I was doing all of this, and I was using sheets to basically calculate, like for embroidery, how many stitches does a design have? How many colors of screen printing? How many hours of sewing? And I had like pretty much any possible option, so I can just type in the number of stitches or screen printing that someone wants, and boom, I have this exact total based off our profit margins, based off all the expenses, based off all this information, which was honestly too much information. But Sheets really made it easy for me to know the exact price based off that.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah. And it's automated too.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Is the camera over here?
All the batteries are dead, all 3.
That's what I thought. So we could just move this one.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I should move it or we should leave it. I didn't know what would be better, Killian.
As a shot luck.
You want to rotate it.
I would go back a little bit too.
Yeah. And maybe go a little bit to your right.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
This
You might want to angle it.
This is
to your
making
right.
the cut.
Oh, other way.
This is definitely making the cut.
Other way.
Killian, put it right up your nose.
Let's see. If you angle it clockwise, it'll have you in frame more.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I see. We're coming up on a beautiful term too.
Yeah, we're going. So for someone who wants to go into the fashion specifically, who wants to travel your path, what 5 tools or thought processes have like changed the game for you that you've applied in your own life and seen amazing returns on?
Not really a process, but just start. Like start exactly where you're at. Like if you have the idea and you're like, I want to do this, just start like
Just do it.
after you watch this video or after you get off your shift or whatever it is. Create the social media page, start sketching down your ideas. That's the first thing I would recommend because you're going to start off terribly. Second thing I would recommend is fail. Because you're going to need to fail at some point along the way. And if you're waiting until you're all the way prepared, you're never going to start. So those are 2 things I would recommend. Not really processes, but just start and just fail. Other things that have helped me, I mean, AI is a tool that has changed so much. Like, there's things that are possible today for creating businesses thanks to AI that were not possible like 6 months ago.
Right.
And that like changed the world, and it's going to continue changing the world. It would make sense for someone to stay up to date with what AI is able to do. Because, let's see, I'm going to roughly quote like Alex Hormozy, but he said like AI can do what it took someone like 12 years to do something. AI can do it in like 12 minutes. So it would only make sense to research what it can do because you want to convert those 12 years in 12 minutes. And he probably didn't say those exact dates, but that's basically where I'm getting the idea from. So it would make sense for you to research, like stay up to date with AI. Other than that, YouTube has taught me everything so much for every business that I've started. So that's a great tool. We're at 4. The last thing that I would recommend is get around people who are doing what you want to do. Whether that is a mastermind or
Mentorship.
Yeah, or mentorship, or just people at your school or anywhere that are trying to do the same thing as you. Get around those people. So those are the 5 things I would probably recommend that would be most helpful for someone starting a fashion business.
Hell yeah. I think that's evergreen too. That's pretty much applicable to anyone.
Yeah.
Just like stay on top of world development, have friends who are interested. Just to start, because I myself personally have been victim to like a lot of, what's the term, mental masturbation, where you think about what you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just never do it.
Yeah.
Like develop this plan. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
Yep.
And then you never do it.
Yeah.
So just taking action and being okay with sucking.
True.
That's been hugely helpful.
Yeah. A little cherry on top, actually, too. I would really recommend what I mentioned before, just sitting and thinking, really flesh out the idea. Write down everything you can think for it, and then going and doing that. So take the time to do nothing. Just throw your phone across the room unless you need it for research. Get this whole plan. Then after that, be like, okay, I'm not going to do anything else until I get this done.
Right.
So
Divide and
a
conquer.
little cherry on top.
Divide and conquer.
Aaron, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and ask you, excuse me, a bunch of questions about, starting their own clothing brand or somebody, how should they get in contact with you?
Instagram at aarongowaty, AARONGOWATY.
We're up on screen here.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Beautiful.
As for Impossible Brands, is your site launched, right?
It is.
It is.
It is launched. Social media is at IMPOSSIBLEBRANDS. It's different on different platforms. And then website is impossiblebranding.com.
Impossiblebranding.com.
Perfect.
Check out the portfolio on there. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But we're pretty much strapped for time.
Cool.
Thank you for coming on today. We had a lot of fun figuring this stuff out.
What was the Haffle's Instagram tag?
Haffle is at HAFFULCLOTHING.
Perfect. Well, this was, I think, episode 12 of the Pursuits of Productivity podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week. I know I did. And we'll definitely have Aaron on again. He's a good friend of mine and a very good person.
Yeah.
An entrepreneur.
Good to see you guys again.
Very well.